As you can see, I'm a little bit dressed up today. I'm going to see a man later about buying some hay bales off him, yeah. And I got a face for radio. Now, I'm going to have a chat with you all today about a topic which is going around now this long time, about the war, the big war. I'm home alone, just me and my little baby cat, yeah. So, how far do we go back? How far does our history go back? How many listeners do I have who, let's say, were born this century? And most of us were born mid to late last century. I don't know whether kids this century are taught a different history than what we were told. But like if we want to go back, let's say, as far as where our history goes, I mean, when I was at primary school, we learned about 1900s history and Europe and Germany and Bismarck and Prussia and this, and that, and the other. It was all a load of shit. I just never listened, was never interested in it. And then, of course, but what we are taught from is when the wars all began, okay? World War I, World War II. And basically this video is about how the nasties stole the world, yeah. And after all these events, the cinema came out for everybody. Money and wealth and cars. The diner appeared, the burger life. And then happened to go to space. And then there's Vietnam. And then they're off to the moon. And then there are satellites, space stations, shuttles. Then there are the financial booms. And then that event in New York in 2001. Well, we're back to war again. Okay, so we're told World War I began because of Archduke Ferdinand from the Austro-Hungarian Empire or whatever, was assassinated in Sarajevo by Serbian nationals back in 1912. And this event led to World War I. So we're told, okay? Now you can go back and look. There is video footage of this assassination. Video cameras were out and around at that time. And he was in a convertible, can you fucking believe it? And he took a wrong turning. Anyway, his car is in a museum. Can't remember where, but you can go and look it up. Archduke Ferdinand's car. And he gets shot in Sarajevo, and the whole idea is it starts the war. But if you look down at the registration plate of his car, it's A111118. It's the date of the end of the First World War. So they plan everything. They show us that they're doing it. This is the funny thing about it. This is what they call, oh, we didn't con the people. Look, if you look closely enough, you can see we're tricking you. Yes, we've looked closely enough and we've seen that you've been tricking us, okay? So then what happens then? The objects aren't achieved. So there's a second war necessary. So it's necessary then to create this fucking short-assed mustachio bastard from Austria, and he becomes the agent to bring about what they tried to achieve during the First World War, which was to make a place real that is not real. So they went ahead and they did that, and he was an agent of that cabal which brought that about. And we entered into that conflict, and out of it we came. Now, When I get the chief online, the chief is the chief of our tribe. He's an old Irish chief. He lived in a Caribbean island for 8 years, and he has eyewitness account of all 4 major players in WW2. Roosevelt the American, the fat warmonger Churchill, that Georgian warmonger Stalin, and then short-ass mustachioed bastard. He said he saw all 4 of them together in mid-1930s at a location on a Caribbean island, planning everything out. Not planning everything out. They didn't plan it out. They were just the puppets that carried it out. Yeah? And even though Germany lost, the nasties, they won. And they took over the world. And it went from Operation Clip Paper before the war to Operation Paper Clip after the war, where the winners said, okay, we're coming to your country next. We're taking over your military-industrial complex. We're going to create space. We're going to create NASA. We're going to run your show. We're going to run your financial empire. We are in charge. We won and you lost. So they gained victory and they gained control. And then on the other side of the world, we're told that Japan comes along and attacks Pearl Harbor. And that gets America in. And then millions, tens of millions of people get slaughtered. Okay, let me tell you what happened, okay? Vatican Rome, Jesuit-owned Mitsubishi Bank and Mitsubishi Motor Company, along with Toyota and Kawasaki, attacked Pearl Harbor. And then Vatican Jesuit Rome owned banking system lends billions and trillions to the American military-industrial complex. So that gets them going. So the same short-assed bunch of fucking cannibal creeps lend money to both sides. This is how it happens. I'm going to bring it even further, okay? Japan is still at war with the world. And this is how they help in many ways to keep wars going. During the last 10, 15, 20 years, we've had numerous terrorist organizations in the world. Here's the first car to pass my house today. And you take Al-Shabaab in Somalia. You take, Boko Haram in Nigeria. You take the Islamic State in the Levant, Al-Qaeda in the Levant and the rest of the Middle East, even the Taliban, waging very successful wars against the world. How do they do it? They do it because they've been supplied with a bunch of brand new Toyota Hiluxes, even with gun mounts on the backs of them. Now, they didn't go down into fucking Mogadishu and buy them at the local Toyota dealer. These fucking things are shipped in brand new on ships. Tens of thousands of them. Direct from manufacturer to port of call. And you saw it all. You saw it all over the years. You see lines of 10 miles long, all brand new fucking Toyotas. And then some people say, that's a stupid argument. I mean, anybody, they could have had Jeeps, they could have had Land Rovers. No, they couldn't, because Jeeps and Land Rovers will break down on you in the desert. They'll break down on you in the jungle. They'll break down on you in the swamp. They'll break down on you as you're going over those mountains. But these Toyotas won't. Now, space programs. These space program people running the narrative. And we live on a spinning ball, flying through space at 8 million miles per hour in 13 different directions. But then the Japanese just released Nikon P900 and P1000, which is gonna fuck them up. And it's another act of war. Yeah? Anyway, people might turn around and say, oh, no, it's the Rothschilds. They own the banks. And they're making all this money and they're making all this money. No, they don't own fucking nothing, okay? They're rich because they get well paid. They just work there. That's all they do. Those people and their origins, they were the scribes of old. All the old emperors and kings down through the years, down through the centuries, employed these people for their skills in number crunching. And they have doctored the books for every fucking ruler for as far back as you can go. And that's why they're employed, because they're expert number crunchers. They own fuck all. See, the Vatican is the world's biggest land and property owner. When you are that, you can print the dollar. And then the dollar becomes the petrodollar. And there's a circle and a cycle which keeps everything up and running. And then it's a commodities dollar. Everything is priced in dollars. So if you are Papua New Guinea and you need to buy sugar or rice or any other product for that matter, you have to change your money into dollars. This is what keeps this fake currency going. It's just like England and the Crown and the Queen. You own 3/4 of London and 1/4 of England. You can print money and stick your face on it. It's fake, but this is how they do it. People just don't make the connections. I mean, going back to WW2, what happened in Europe? The Rolls-Royce Motor Company bombed the shit out of Germany. And the BMW Motor Company bombed the shit out of England. And now BMW own Rolls-Royce. They keep it all in the family. This is how Rome rule works. It's hidden in plain sight. They're hiding behind a fake church and religion, which is a shop front to con people out of their last few quid. And people just do not make the connections. In order for you to be a country in this world, you have to have a contract with the bank and the post office. So if you don't have a contract with either, you do not classify as a country. And then to be a country, you have to comply with all of their rules. Whatever they ask, you do. They say, we're going to go to war, or you're going to go to war with them. Yeah? Now, when you go to war, the International Bank of Settlements comes into play. And you know who owns that. And they get involved in the compensation, the repayments, the loss that everybody has lost, the rebuilding, the earning of all the millions and billions from the rebuilding of the cities. But then it's not all, okay? Because as you know, if you're born in one of these so-called countries, you are issued with a birth certificate. And this birth certificate is your bond. And then if you get tied up into the army, you go to war, you get a dog tag around your neck. And then if something happens to you, that trust has to be paid for. It's a slave owner system. There are people out there who do own thousands of birth certificates belonging to somebody else. They've bid for them on the exchange and they own them. They live in that place which is not real usually. And it's a form of them saying, okay, we can keep slaves. Yeah? So right now, there are about 40 wars going on. And 39 of them we are not hearing about. Yeah, I'm going to put my feet up here and sit back a little bit. But there is one that they won't shut up about. And there's going to be a lot of billions and trillions flying around after this. And this banking system thinks that it will be the beneficiary of all of that, yeah? Apparently, like, the beginning of the war, there were 300,000 British troops stranded at Dunkirk. And the reason why short-ass mustachioed bastard didn't wipe them all out was because it was going to cost a hell of a lot in repayments. Yeah. And not enough Germans had been killed already to balance out the books so it wouldn't cost them that much. Horrible as it might sound, people, this is the game they play. This is the game the demons play. They're playing fucking Monopoly with your soul. Our misery is their bounty. And they make billions out of our misery. And billions for all of those who caused it. So how do they control these disposable politicians? Okay. Obviously, we know it's compromise. Okay. They get these politicians, they say, right, you're going to do exactly what we tell you to do. Or we are going to show the whole world video of you drinking horse piss and eating crocodile shit at the zoo. Oh, no, don't do that, don't do that. Okay, then, well, start obeying our orders. Make it a crime now for anybody who's wearing 2 different colored socks. What? Do as we say, right? Next thing you'll know, it's a crime now to wear 2 different colored socks. It's $80 fine. This is how crazy the world is. But they have got Alsatian dog militias in army costumes and police costumes who will go around and they will enforce this fucking law. So this is how these assholes stay on top. It's an intelligence operation involving blackmail. The empire depends on keeping their political economy in place. So it's do as you're told or else. I mean, our governments are not our governments. They're all foreign corporate entities, registered in foreign countries, and a tiny group of people with a system to hire armed militias in costumes to enforce their sick rule. This is what they do. But look, these people that they employ in these costumes are outnumbered by us by 1,000 to 1. And they're misfits anyway. They've got nowhere to go. But where do we stand as people? We're subject to all of this horrible shit that they pour on us. And when you know that your government is registered in a foreign country, and I mean, you could be walking around right now in Fife, Alabama, and your police force could be registered in Montreal, Canada, for all you know. I'm Scots-Irish, living here in France. France is definitely just a fist of the Holy Roman Empire, its biggest fist in Europe. It's Phoenicia, it's downtown Phoenicia. But back in Ireland, our entire system is registered to a corporation called Dun & Bradstreet, registered in Jacksonville, Florida. You are under foreign occupation, wherever country you're in. But let's get back to the country of my birth, Ireland. It's run by a foreign corporation. And when these low IQ'd, low brained actors in costumes pull you over on the side of the road, they do not have a charter for halting people in their proceedings, stopping civilians on their travels. And in doing so, as a foreign occupying force, They're committing a war crime. It's a war crime. Now, it's not the same severity a war crime as all those nasty bastards in the labor camps who tortured and slaughtered people. They were took out and fucking hung straight away. And it wasn't just those nasty bastards that were strung up for war crimes. There were many doctors, lawyers, politicians, journalists. You know what the doctors were executed for? They were executed for practicing medicine on a patient without their consent. That was the fucking crime. These are big war crimes, but small war crimes. Now, the war crime of a foreign agent halting you as a civilian on your land when you have committed no offense is a $25 million fine. They don't know this. They're not taught this. Now, how do you deal with such individuals? You get all these types of people out there. You've seen all the videos. Cop stops you. I'm a sovereign citizen. You can't talk to me. I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm another thing. Horse shit. You know, and pulling out pieces of paper saying, look at this. I'm free. I'm a free man. Forget all that shit. None of that fucking shit works. You committed no offense, no injured parties. Cop pulls you over. He wants to go through you. Okay? If he starts to annoy you, you've done nothing wrong. The first thing you ask him for is his business card. He's going to say, no, I haven't got one. Then, okay, ask, will your supervisor confirm that you've been issued with a business card or not? And you freeze us and get your supervisor on the phone, on the wire. I want to ask him if you've lied to me, okay? Now, it can get stroppy. So you could say, well, if he says, I don't have a business card, I'll ask him, why are you conducting commerce on the byways and highways of this land without a business card? I'm not conducting commerce. Yes, you are conducting commerce. And if it even gets more stroppy, okay, let's say they threaten to detain you or arrest you, you ask them for their insurance indemnity number. Okay? Now, either he knows or he doesn't know about indemnity insurance, or he has it or he doesn't have it. One or the other. Or one or the other. Now, they might turn around and say, point at their shoulder, there's my police number, ZX12345Y. Tell them, I'm not interested in your police number. I want your insurance indemnity number. Now, he knows this is going to go far. He knows that you're going to, if he has indemnity insurance, doesn't matter whether he has or not, he'll point him and say, do you have indemnity insurance? And if you still get no answer, ask him, do you own your own house? And you tell him that he's committing a war crime and he's liable to a fine of $25 million. And then you turn the tables on him, okay? You adopt Stockholm Syndrome. And you look at him, you go, look, man, you have to protect yourself. You can't come down here on the byways and highways of this land, armed, carrying out an illegal order from a superior to interfere with civilians and not have your own indemnity insurance. Some lunatic could come over the hill and you could get involved in a gunfight and you shoot somebody. It's all going to go south for you very fast if you don't have indemnity insurance. You have to protect yourself. If your supervisors are not telling you that you need to get indemnity insurance, then they are not your friend. You know, I wouldn't like to see anything go wrong with you here, but you got to protect yourself. And then, of course, there's another thing. Let's say he does have indemnity insurance. You tell him, give me your insurance indemnity number, because he knows that 3 complaints against your insurance indemnity policy and you lose your indemnity insurance, you're fucking out there on the road on your own. The first guy you shot, they're going to lock you up in fucking jail and take everything off you. because you ain't covered. Now, let's say you've got a persistent prick who thinks that you're carrying fucking some contraband. He wants to search your car. Use what you have to say to him. I'm not granting you jurisdiction over my property. This is legal terminology. And that includes me, my clothes, my automobile, not vehicle, and my private property contents of my automobile. I'm not granting you jurisdiction over it. Let's say he goes ahead, searches your car, drags you in. The moment you get into court, and the judge hears how you instructed that officer and how he acted after you instructed him, he's fucked. Oh, look, I'll tell you one little story here before we end. This happened in the good old US of A, where a guy's driving down the road at night. Cop pulls him over. Cop nails him for this, that, and the other. Brings him into court. And cop gets up, takes the stand, and said blah, 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 blah. And then the man gets up, the so-called defendant, which he probably is not. That's not what he is. And he says, officer, on that night when you halted my automobile, was I traveling on American soil? Cop says, yes. The judge goes, stop! Halt proceedings immediately. Stop proceedings. The cop didn't know what the fuck was going on. The court didn't know what was going on. The only two people in there that knew what was going on was the judge and the so-called defendant. Because these are maritime agents. They are in 1919, the roads were redesignated as hostile inland waterways, and this gave the pirates jurisdiction on the roads because they're redesignated, right? When the man says, when you stopped me, was I traveling on American soil? The judge stopped the case because the pirate has no jurisdiction on American soil. He only has got jurisdiction on the waterways. So when he answered yes, that was it. Proceedings halted. You see, you can't sue the police force, but what you can do is you can sue the man in the costume in his private capacity. You see, there's one gang of warmongers hiding behind communism, fascism, nastyism, capitalism. All these isms are run by them. I'd like to get a thing going called communityism. So, we fight and kill each other for their fucking isms, right? So that's about it. I have all the doors and windows open, even though it's cool. You can still have the wind blowing through the house. Oh, look what I got. Fucking Tartarian corkscrew. Have you ever seen the like of that? Man, that is brilliant. I'm home alone. Guess what I did last night? I cooked for myself. I made myself a pie with onions, broccoli, potatoes, mushrooms, goat cheese. It's going to last me for 4 days. Oh, I got to eat for 4 days. But it is nippy. We're in the middle of the biggest ever heat wave ever, with the coldest July ever. Here, do you want to know a final little trick before I go? This is it. See this stuff here? See that stuff there? Started to get a little bit too tall. So it could be seen from behind that fence there. So what you do is you just bend them over. They won't rot. Doesn't matter how wet the grass gets. You bend them over, you put a couple of bars across them to keep them down, and then you cover it in plastic. It'll grow up through the plastic all the way up along the grass. Frankie fingers, all the way up here along the grass. And no one's going to see it, and it won't rot. It's brilliant. Anyway, I mean, that's about it. But what the friggin' hell are the lights doing on outside in the middle of the day? I don't know how that happened. Could have been on for a long time. I'm not out here at night. That's about it, people. Keep your head down. They're after you. But this video should explain to you who they are, what they are, how they act, how they get away with everything, how they hide behind everything, how they employ militias to, and again, we outnumber them by thousands to one. So, it's midday, Saturday, I think it's 5th of August, in the grand year of 1023. And you can't see the church through the trees because I'm surrounded in trees. But it's ding dong time, 12 o'clock, meaning everybody go home, have your dinner, have your lunch, sorry. But it's Saturday. Anyway, people, this is me all alone in my house. I can make as much noise as I like. Nobody can hear me. I got no neighbors. I can bing, 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 and a bum, bum, bum. So, take it all in, people. Love you all. Talk to you all back very soon.